Hi and Assalamualaikum to our panels. My name is Muhammad Shahroniza bin Muhammad Yunus and my other partners is Muhammad Faizal bin Baharin, and today we would like to present on our research study, which is a study on the relationship between consumer intention, consumer behavior and lack of innovation convenience with the adoption of electric vehicles in Shah Alam, Malaysia. And please do enjoy our presentation video. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Faizal bin Baharin, and in today's presentation, I will explain the first four components of this research, started with research background, problem statement, research question and objective, and the theoretical framework. The rest content in this presentation will be presented by my partner. So without wasting any time, I'll begin my presentation with the research background. Issues concerning air pollution caused by the transportation industry are now become the main concern worldwide. In Malaysia, 54% of households having more than one car, and this number of registered cars led to energy scarcity and carbon emission release. In 2015, the data have shown that Malaysia is one of the ASEAN countries with the most carbon dioxide emission release, with approximately 7.27 tons metric per capita, and the number is worsened because it continues to increase. And in 2019, Malaysia recorded an amount of 7.67 metric tons per capita for carbon emission. Moreover, technology advancement could be as a great tool in control the air pollution, especially for automotive industry. It also could enhance the energy efficiency of different transport modes, promoting lifestyle improvement, mobility habits, and a better transport system. As a result, rising concerns about the environmental effects of the existing road transportation modes have encouraged the adoption of electric mobility systems. Next is problem statement. In the execution of plan to adopt the electric vehicles, there are three main problems that need to be addressed. The first one is major CO2 emission and rising rapidly by transportation industry. This industry recorded a rapid rising in carbon dioxide emission compared to other industry which are mainly cost industry carbon emitting fuels, namely petrol and diesel oil. The second one is the transportation industry directly contribute to greenhouse gas emission. Data according to Terrin Franson and Ben Whaley in 2018 shows that 14% of all greenhouse gas emission and 1/4 of emissions from burning fossil fuel were accounted for by the transportation industry. And last but not least, the major problem concerning the adoption of electric vehicle in Malaysia is the increasing number of registered conventional car. Malaysia Automotive Association in 2020 has recorded an increased number of registered conventional car in Malaysia, which led to an increasing number of carbon dioxide emission release. For this research, the researchers have come up with 4 research questions and research objectives. The research question and research objective are mainly to know is there any relationship between the independent variable, which is consumer intention, consumer behavior and lack of innovation convenience, with the dependent variable which is adoption of electric vehicles in Shah Alam, Malaysia. And for the fourth research question and research objective, the researchers are trying to identify the most dominant factor that influence the electric vehicles adoption in Shah Alam. And for the panel reference, the research question and research objective has been stated in the slides. For the theoretical framework, the researchers have decided 3 independent variables and 1 dependent variable. The independent variable consists of consumer intention, consumer behavior and lack of innovation convenience, while for the dependent variable, the researchers have chosen electric vehicles adoption in Shah Alam, Malaysia as the variable.
Hi and Assalamualaikum to the panels. My name is Muhammad Shahroniza bin Muhammad Yunus and will be presenting on the parts of hypothesis development. Here, our research has developed 3 hypothesis development, which is 3 independent variables with 1 dependent variable. Move to the first independent variables, which is consumer intention. Consumer intention can be identified as the consumers are more informed and tend to buy the goods which are in line with their customers' interests, as what been stated by Rong Liao and Zi Huangding in 2020. Therefore, the researchers have developed the hypothesis statement, which is H null 1, there is no significant relationship between consumer intention and the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents, and the HA1, there is a significant relationship between consumer intention and the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents. Second is consumer behavior, and the evaluation of events is mainly focused on the human value system. Perceived value can be viewed as a core component of purchasing behavior, and according to Hassan in 2015, perceived value plays a major role in the decision-making process of consumer to purchase goods of high perceived value. Therefore, the researchers have developed the hypothesis statement, which is H null 2, there is no significant relationship between consumer behavior and the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents, and the HA2, there is a significant relationship between consumer behavior and the adoption of electric vehicles among Shah Alam residents. Last is lack of innovation convenience. Apart from the prices that become the major obstacles among Malaysia to adopt EV, the other obstacles to consumer withdrawal from the purchase of EV is their recharging infrastructure, as what is stated by Lin and Wu in 2018. Their investment in recharging infrastructure incurred a lot of cost, and it makes the consumers think twice before consuming it, as what is stated as the Patterson and Michael in 2013. Therefore, the hypothesis development is there is no significant relationship between lack of innovation convenience and the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents, and the HA3, there is a significant relationship between lack of innovation convenience and the adoption of electric vehicles among Shah Alam residents. Now is the research methodology. The first one is research design. This research was focused on the adoption of electric vehicles in Malaysia among the residents of Shah Alam. All the data obtained were collected from the people who are in Shah Alam. Moreover, the research design used in this study is a quantitative survey based on the factors of EV adoption in Malaysia among the Shah Alam's residents. Besides, this research study also used this cross-sectional study, as it is an easy way to gather and collect data and information from our respondents. Next is unit of analysis. In this research study, to get input on the relationship between consumer intention, consumer behavior, and lack of innovation convenience with the factors to adopt electric vehicles among the residents of Shah Alam Selangor. Therefore, the target demographic for the research was individuals, primarily from the individuals chosen by residents of members from Shah Alam to represent the entire society. The third is sample size. According to the table of Craig G. and Morgan in 1970, the survey for this research consists of 380 respondents who are among the residents of the Shah Alam Selangor. And the next step of research methodology is sampling technique. There are 2 sampling designs, which are probability and non-probability. This study will use a probability, also known as a representative sampling. To make a participant probability sample, a random selection should be used. In this study also, the researcher will be using the simple random sampling, meaning that all elements in the population are considered and each element has an equal chance of being selected as the subject of this study. The fifth is the measurement. The research study will use the variables such as nominal and Likert scale. Nominal scale is the lowest level of data measurement, where the items such as demographic questions in the survey will use this type of scale, and Likert scale will use to examine how strongly respondents agree or disagree with a 5-point Likert scale. Sixth is the data collection. In this research study, the method that will be used is an online questionnaire through Google Form. This is the fastest and simplest way to obtain data and information by using this interactive media. And last but not least is the data analysis. In this research study, the researcher using a test of normality, reliability, Pearson correlation, and multiple regression. Now is the findings. The questionnaire have been distributed online to the Shah Alam residents and only got 277 out of 384 respondents to answer the questionnaire. The rate of respondents that answered this questionnaire was 72%. The first demographic profile is the gender, which is between male and female. Most of our respondents are male, which is with frequency 158 or 57% from the total respondents. Next is the age of the respondents. Most of our respondents were at the age of 15 years old and above. That represented 19 respondents out of 277 total respondents and covered up about 32.5 from the total samples. The third demographic profile is academic level. From the survey given, there is SPM, STPM, certificate, undergraduate, postgraduate, and others. From the research conduct, most of the respondents are the undergraduate status, with 16 respondents with 21.7%. Next demographic is monthly income, and most of the respondents are having an income with more than 3,000 ringgit Malaysian in a month, with the total of 159 respondents, which is 57.4%. And last but not least is the job specification, where 151 of respondents, which is 54.5%, are in management and professional group, while the support services group is only with 126 of respondents, or 45.5% of the total respondents. Now are the main findings. There are four main findings, which the first one is to examine the significant relationship between consumer attention with the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents. Based on the result, there is a relationship between the consumer intention and the adoption of electric vehicles, where the R value is 0.713 and P value is 0.000. Therefore, A1 was successful to be accepted and H01 successful to be rejected. The second main findings are to examine the significant relationship between consumer behavior and the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents. Based on the result, there is a significant relationship between consumer behavior and adoption of electric vehicles, where the R value is 0.518 and P value is 0.000. Therefore, HA2 was successful to be accepted and H02 successful to be rejected. The third main findings are to examine the significant relationship between lack of innovation convenience and the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents. Based on the result, there is a significant relationship between consumer behavior and adoption of electric vehicles, where the R value is 0.296 and the P value is 0.000. Therefore, HA3 was successful to be accepted and H03 successful to be rejected. And our last main findings are to identify the dominant factor that lead to the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents. The value of R squared is 0.563, which represents that 56.3% of the variables contribute to the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents. Therefore, it can be concluded that the dominant factors that lead to the adoption of electric vehicles among the Shah Alam residents is consumer attention, with beta value is 0.585 and the P value is 0.000. And now is the recommendation. The first one is a comprehensive marketing strategies. In order to promote the usage of electric vehicles, a comprehensive marketing strategy needs to be addressed so that it can influence and attract more people to adopt. As for now, the government has implemented a variety of policies, including subsidies, for the purchase of the EV. Additionally, the government intends to invest 100 billion ringgit Malaysia, that's about 16 billion US dollar, in technology and investment over the next 25 years, as been stated by as been stated by Sang and Beckett in 2015. According to the Malaysian Automobile Manufacturers Associations, only 27,400 units were sold in 2012, where 23,000 units of electric vehicles were used by the government agency, while only 4,400 units were acquired by the individuals. It shows that the ordinary Malaysian are considering the superior performance of the conventional cars rather than electric vehicles, as been stated by Zhang et al. In 2013. Such advertising tools in the marketing that can improve highlight their fuel-saving technology, creation of more informative promotion, and educate consumers on the benefits of having an electric vehicle can increase more the interest of Malaysians to adopt the EV. Second is review the price of electric vehicles. Most of the electric vehicles unit in Malaysian market was a complete knockdown CKD model, where the parts were imported from the manufacturer country and were assembled in Malaysia. Thus, the price still remains high. Moreover, most of the electric vehicle models come from the premium vendors such as BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, Toyota, and Honda. Therefore, it makes the overall cost of electric vehicles about 30% higher than the non-hybrid electric vehicles in Malaysia, as been what stated by the Nadia in 2017. To avoid excessive pricing, automakers must offer more affordable electric vehicles. This is because the majority of buyers are on the lookout for a more reasonable and affordable price. And last but not least is pro-environmental attitude. Alternative fuel vehicles such as electric vehicles are viewed as critical for improving transportation and resolving environmental issues. As the exposure regarding electric vehicles in Malaysia are not widespread enough, it may impact the Malaysia's EV adoption improvement. Thus, pro-environmental could play a vital role in turning the table and encouraging the community towards the adoption of electric vehicles. Their personal moral norms of engaging in pro-environmental behavior should be brought in tandem into the community to ensure that the rate of electric vehicle consumption increases. Positive attitude shown by the environmentalists in dealing with environmental problems can influence others to do the same. And in a nutshell, each and every one need to feel obligated to protect the environment and work together to ensure that the clean environment can be enjoyed by the future generation. And the last part for me to explain is research limitations. The first limitation will be the quantitative study. In this study, the researchers conducted the quantitative method, so the data collection process was not too significant. Besides, the quantitative methods have their own limitations, although data reliability is largely determined by the quality of the responses and the survey's design. The limitations to have using this method in the research is where the data alone may not be sufficient to explain the complex issues. The recommendation for future study is to still use the quantitative method together with the secondary data, where to use the interview, observation, workshop, and other methods, as this can gain more information on the issue. In fact, it is a must for the future study, as this can avoid any data error in the study. Next is data collection. The data collection method in this research study was conducted during the peak of COVID-19 in Malaysia, as the number keep on increasing, and it is where the government had implemented the Movement Control Order (MCO) to reduce the number of cases in Malaysia. Therefore, it is hard for the researchers to reach out the respondents as many as they can to achieve the real number of respondents. Hence, the researchers in this study have conducted an online survey by using the Google form to reach out their targeted population respondents. Although the questionnaire has been published on an online platform such as WhatsApp, it is difficult to find respondents to answer the questionnaire because people tend to miss or forget to answer the questionnaire when compared to the hand distributing the questionnaire. The recommendation for this is to make sure that the researcher choose the area where the population is not too many, that at the end of it must reach a lot of respondents, as if there is still MCO and the cases are increasing in Malaysia. Besides, to collect data from a variety of platforms in order to effectively achieve the number of proposed respondents. Lastly is lack of available data information. As it is concerned in Malaysia, the adoption of electric vehicles is not too popular, and thus there is not much available information that can be read by the researchers. Therefore, with the lack of data or information that can be read or understood by the researcher, will almost certainly force the researcher to limit the scope of the study and the size of the population sample, or it will be a major barrier to discovering a trend and a relevant relationship. The future researcher recommendation, where the researcher can do a further investigation on the subject interest. It is important to examine the interest study field, as this can confirm to the researcher that the interest subject has an amount of readable data information. Besides, read and understand the issues of the subject and identify if there are any difficulties in searching the data information from the previous researcher in the related field.
So our presentation has come to an end, and I will end this presentation with the conclusion. In conclusion, this research study has given an overview of the factors that might influence the adoption of electric vehicles in Shah Alam, Malaysia. Nowadays, issues concerning climate change has been broadly covered. However, the transportation industry as the main contributor to the greenhouse gas emission is less highlighted. It is very important for the government and transportation industry, especially in Malaysia, to work hand in hand together to give the best input and knowledge on the advantages of having an electric vehicles as to reduce the greenhouse gases in the upcoming year. And this idea seems to be realistic, as our country has national car makers like Prodwa and Proton, and it is a big advantages to move into this environmental friendly automotive scenes. So that's all from me and my partner. And thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.